let me put an idea in your head, okay? Because it's so hard to get the Senate to do anything, now they're on recess, they don't get anything done. If you declare a national security emergency as the President of the United States, they can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So if you do this in the next month, we will get photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots. And
let me just say that stranger things have happened. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
How dumb do they think we are? Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Stranger things have happened is Trump's response to a proposal so radical and outrageous and unfounded. An idea on a cable or podcast or whatever that was show to declare a national emergency, a national security emergency, to seize control of our elections. It's deeply disturbing to hear that. It's just over 80 days out from November's midterm elections. Elections we know will be a referendum on Donald Trump, even though he's not on the ballot. Elections we know he does not look like he's going to be successful in, and he doesn't want his party to lose, because if Democrats take control of Congress, they have already said they plan on holding the Trump administration accountable. Here's Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries just yesterday on that.
Our focus right now is making sure that we win as many seats as we can in November, flip as many red seats blue, and take the gavels back so we can actually function like a check and balance on an out-of-control administration. We're operating under the premise that the Trump administration and that Republicans have adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy. And they're going to do everything they can to try to rig the election in their favor.
Now, there have been countless efforts already by Donald Trump and his allies to take over elections, about which Democracy Docket writes this, quote, "He largely has not succeeded, and the reason is simple. The U.S. Constitution gives the president no lawful authority over how states run elections, and courts have said as much while knocking down many of his efforts. But with each loss, Donald Trump has grown more desperate and his actions more brazen, raising the risk that he will try something even more lawless." Just this week, we saw a federal judge expand an earlier block on Donald Trump's effort to limit mail-in voting. But no matter what Trump attempts, his argument of election fraud has already been undercut by his own very special advisor, John Solomon, who said this to my colleague Von Hilliard last month.
All I can acknowledge is what the intelligence shows, right? I only know the intelligence community has zero evidence that someone has flipped, that a foreign power flipped a vote in 2020, 22, or 24.
And so the 2020 election was, in fact, the results as we, the American public.
I'm still researching, so let me. This is the first.
But there's no intelligence.
Not yet.
There is no intelligence that the election would have said that Donald Trump was president.
The president said that tonight.
Inspector Clouseau is still searching. That's where we begin the hour with voting rights attorney and Democracy Docket founder Mark Elias. He's here with me for the hour. Also joining us, the director of the Brennan Center's Voting Rights Program, Sean Morales Doyle. I mean, Mark, it's not funny. I guess if you stare at this stuff every day, you have to find some gallows humor in the moment when even the most Trumpy, most conspiracy theory open person has to acknowledge what the intelligence does and does not say. And it does not say that there was any fraud. And Vaughn asked him about 2020, 2022, and 2024 there, I think. That's where we are. That's sort of the baseline from whence they're doing all of this illegal, unlawful, dangerous stuff.
Yeah, look, the thing about Donald Trump is he's always been able to get people to usually lie in the driveways. You know, remember Rudy Giuliani, parking lot, Four Seasons Landscaping? Here, John Solomon, I guess to his credit, he didn't lie. He told the truth. And that poor woman who works, I assume, for the White House, her job was to then physically get John Solomon out of the way of Von Hilliard as quickly as possible to minimize the damage. But the lies will continue, and they will escalate, and they will become more preposterous, as you showed in that first clip, you know, where Donald Trump was asked a question of sorts about a national security emergency, citing a court case that does nothing to do with it, suggesting that he can overcome a legislative failure to enact a law by putting it in place, and then Congress can overturn it by 2/3. I mean, it's just a bunch of gibberish, but it is the thing that lays the predicate for what comes next. You know, just today, Donald Trump's Department of Justice went 0 for 22 in their litigation efforts to get access to the state voter file. They lost in their effort to get the Sixth Circuit, very conservative circuit, to review that one of those cases en banc. So what we're going to see is the lies continue, even as the court losses mount.
You talked about what happens next. I mean, be a little more specific. What will they do? I mean, they haven't won in court. They're 0 for 22. How many more state voter rolls are they trying to get? And what's plan B?
Okay, so they sued for 30 voter rolls. They are 0 for 22. They are definitely going to go 0 for 30, unless some of these judges just say, you know what, like this, we're not going to. They're not going to win any cases. The only question is whether some of the judges at this point just say it's getting so close to the election they don't have to decide. So they're going to lose those cases. I think in the end, Donald Trump is going to lose his effort to co-opt the Postal Service to coerce states to provide voter file information. I think that Donald Trump's Department of Justice efforts are going to lose their other court cases. So then they move to the next phase. And the next phase is escalating the lies and basically saying that losing these cases is proof that there is massive fraud, that losing these cases is proof that there is a deep state, that losing these cases is proof that they need to therefore take the next step, which in the 2020 election was January 6th, and we will see what it is in 2026. But I think we all need to take seriously the possibility that Donald Trump will either use the power of the federal government, ICE, CPB, FBI, who knows what, to target his political opponents. And in this case, his political opponents will be voters and election officials, not just people like me and others who are more prominent, but they'll turn this against the public like they did in Minneapolis around immigration, or it might be the inspiration of right-wing vigilantes, which we saw obviously on January 6th, but we've seen around election activity since. You see every time there is an election that goes out the way that Republicans don't want, you see these right-wing vigilantes sort of pop their head above the sea level.
So here, Sean, is what Todd Blanche, whose predecessor in the first Trump term, Bill Barr, who was sycophantic in every way, drew the line at these election conspiracies. He called them, quote, bullshit. Here's what Todd Blanche has to say about the integrity of our elections and how he's going to use the Civil Rights Division to meddle.
Have you spoken with people in the Civil Rights Division to see what they're observing in these primaries, and if you have any concerns that they have raised as they've been observing polling places?
So I don't have an update necessarily today to say here's what we're doing, but yes, that is something that the Department of Justice, as every Department of Justice does, is making sure that we're appropriately monitoring between now and, you're right, there's primaries, but up through the election, and we'll continue to do that. It's important the American people know about it because we're doing it to make sure that we have elections that are fair and run the right way.
I guess a bit of a word salad in there, but the most important thing he said was yes. Yes, when he was asked if he'd spoken to the Civil Rights Division. What do you hear there, Sean?
Well, he did say that other departments of justice have also deployed monitors from the Department of Justice to monitor our elections, and that's true. The difference here is that this Civil Rights Division of this Department of Justice has made it their stated mission to turn the Civil Rights Division on its head, and in the words of the head of that division, Harmeet Dillon, to drive the train in the opposite direction. And so the crown jewel of the Department of Justice, which has historically played such a significant role in protecting against civil rights violations and race discrimination in our elections, is now being used to accomplish the opposite objectives. And so that's worrisome. But again, they don't have any real legal tools or real legal authority over our elections. The statements at the beginning of the segment about calling for a national emergency are actually an implied concession. They're sort of telling on themselves here. They know the president doesn't have any authority over elections, and so folks are urging him to declare a national emergency with the idea that somehow that will give him that authority. But that also won't work. He doesn't have any authority over elections. This campaign is not a legal campaign. It has been